please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sorry, I thought I'd start with the annual stormwater. Well, tonight is a special night, as you can tell by our guests. I guess we only, I think we only do this once a year, but I feel like every once in a while we have another special night when something happens. But this is like the big night for the Irvington Police Department. It's a big night for Irvington. It's when we give out our police department commendations. So without further ado, I will kick it over to Chief Pignatelli.
Thank you, Mayor Smith. So I know not everybody's here, but I just want to thank all the officers of the Irvington Police Department for their continued hard work over this past year in this ever-changing environment. Every day there's instances where each of you demonstrate qualities and traits that make great police officers, and it shows through the way that the community is impacted by all of you. The dedication, courage, and professionalism I've seen in this past year has been tremendous. With that being said, I'd like to recognize the following officers who are going to be receiving commendations this evening. So, Sergeant Ryan Weiss, Sergeant Pete Warnicki, I think he's here, Police Officer Archangelo Libator, Police Officer Anthony De Laurentiis, and Police Officer Scott Dunleavy. Please join us up front. You guys want to come around this side?
Take it back.
Good job.
On the following three occasions, one being September 3rd, 2021, Sergeant Pete Warnicki and Police Officer Anthony De Laurentiis. On March 28th of 2022, Officers Archangelo Libator and Anthony De Laurentiis. And then again on April 27th, 2022, Sergeant Ryan Weiss, Police Officer Scott Dunleavy, Police Officer Archangelo Libator, and Police Officer Anthony De Laurentiis responded to medical aided calls. Upon arrival to these calls, in each instance, the officers came upon an unresponsive person. Recognizing that it was highly likely that they were dealing with drug overdose situations, these officers immediately administered Narcan, a life-saving medication. In each of these instances, the person became responsive and was transported to a local hospital for further treatment and survived. The life-saving medal is awarded for demonstrating keen observation skills, recognizing the seriousness, and successfully applying immediate medical aid, which resulted in the saving of a life. The life-saving medal is hereby awarded to Sergeant Ryan Weiss, Sergeant Pete Warnicki, who's not here, Police Officer Archangelo Libator for 2 occasions, Police Officer Anthony De Laurentiis for 3 separate occasions, and Police Officer Scott Dunleavy. Thank you.
You got a picture of them right up here? Yeah, line up right there.
When I call your name, if you could just join us up front. Sergeant Grolier, Police Officer John Nairati, Sergeant Daniel Tarantino, Sergeant Robert Gagliardi, Detective Antonio Guzzo, and Detective Justin Bottiglieri. On January 28th, 2022, members of the Greenberg Drug and Alcohol Task Force, including Detective Sergeant John Mark Grolier, Police Officer John Nairati, Sergeant Daniel Tarantino, Sergeant Robert Gagliardi, Detective Antonio Guzzo, and Detective Justin Bottiglieri conducted a short-term investigation, which led to the arrest of 2 perpetrators after they attempted to steal close to $10,000 by way of trickery from an elderly Irvington resident. These officers successfully thwarted the larceny and linked one of the perpetrators arrested to a multi-state criminal organization. Information directly obtained from this investigation was used to conduct numerous search warrants throughout New York State, the state of Connecticut, and the Dominican Republic, and federal indictments on other co-conspirators are expected. The Excellent Police Duty Medal is awarded for demonstrating valuable and intelligent investigative skills. The Excellent Police Duty Medal is hereby awarded to Detective Sergeant John Mark Royer. Police Officer John Nairati. Sergeant Daniel Tarantino. Sergeant Robert Gagliardi. Detective Antonio Guzzo. And Detective Justin Siglari.
Let's take a picture of you guys.
Police Officer Anthony Donato. Front. This is for undercover police assignment. During the calendar years of 2021 and 2022, the Greenberg Drug and Alcohol Task Force conducted an investigation into the sale of illegal narcotics. Needing the assistance of an undercover officer, the task force requested Police Officer Anthony Donato for this assignment. Officer Donato, without reservation, volunteered to take on this often dangerous role. Officer Donato successfully purchased quantities of cocaine on numerous occasions. Thanks to his valuable assistance, the task force was able to bring successful close in several criminal charges to investigations. As a direct result of his undercover role, the perpetrator was arrested and charged with criminal sale of controlled substances and faces years of incarceration. Commendation Medal is awarded to Police Officer Anthony Donato for intelligently performing his duties in an inherently dangerous police activity, performed with outstanding bravery, work ethic, intelligence, and professionalism. Police Officer Thomas DeCampley, can you please join us up front? On November 1st, 2021, after receiving a radio notification of a vehicle which had just been stolen within the confines of the village of Sleepy Hollow, Police Officer Thomas DeCampley observed the vehicle fitting the description and observed that the same license plate as the one which was broadcasted. Officer DeCampley was able to stop and recover the stolen vehicle and quickly apprehended the perpetrator, all without incident. The Excellent Police Duty Medal is awarded for demonstrating keen observation skills while also demonstrating safe and intelligent police services. This award is presented to Police Officer Thomas DeCampley. On January 24th of 2022, after receiving a radio request from Ardsley Police Department for immediate assistance in the search for a possible armed suspect who had just committed a burglary, Irvington Police Officer Thomas DeCampley was assigned and responded. Shortly after arriving at the scene, Officer DeCampley successfully located a suspect hiding underneath a motor vehicle and was able to take the suspect into custody without further incident. Once again, the Excellent Police Duty Medal is awarded for demonstrating keen observation skills while demonstrating safe and intelligent police services. This award is presented to Officer Thomas DeCampley.
Thank you, DJ. One shot guy over there.
All right.
Somebody
And
needs
Police
a
Officer
smile in a
Omar
second.
Oviedo.
Is that a smile?
Up front. On November 15th, 2021, while on routine patrol, Police Officer Omar Oviedo observed a suspicious vehicle and developed probable cause to conduct a traffic stop. Subsequent to that stop, the driver was found to be in possession of a weapon and he was taken into custody. An ensuing investigation revealed that the occupants of that vehicle had just attempted to steal a vehicle from a driveway of an Irvington resident. It was also determined that the perpetrator had committed similar acts in 3 different states. The Excellent Police Duty Medal is awarded for demonstrating keen observation skills while demonstrating safe and intelligent police services. This award is presented to Police Officer Omar Oviedo.
I feel like I should make people smile over here. You know, those kids where you're like,
Sure, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, take some pictures.
So can we get one group shot up front, if everybody could join us up front?
In the room?
Yeah.
Good. Ready? Yeah. Yeah, we'll go there. Well, congratulations again to all the award recipients, as well as all of our officers with all their mundane tasks and having to miss holidays and late nights and things like that. So not just the award winners, but everybody that just, works hard for us every day. I personally, I was a little surprised at how many Narcan uses there were in Irvington. It's a little depressing, but thankfully we have it, and thankfully our officers are trained to use it. But it's I think that's just indicative of what a big problem opioid abuse is in our country, and obviously in our little town. So thanks again, and congratulations to all the Irvington Police Department, as well as the adjoining departments that have worked so well with us in the last year.
I'd also comment that quite a number of awards were given to officers who were relatively new to the force, who have been on the force for have been actually on the street for probably less than a year, around there. I know Omar's new, and our two young local officers, finished training. It can't be more than a year working on the street, but I just think, I comment that we put them right to work, and they're all doing a good job.
So I will move on to announcements. The first announcement is Memorial Day is obviously on Memorial Day. Let me get the exact date.
May 30th.
May 30th. And ceremonies will start on Main Street at 10:45 a.m. The parade is back this year. I think if you still have a group that would like to march in the parade, you can reach out to myself, or Mina Caparel Dawson, or Richard Park, or Larry, and we'd be happy to organize that for you. Any group, any local group that wants to march, you're more than welcome. We're excited to have the parade back. We're also going to have at least 2 Marines, probably more, from Fleet Week that are going to come and be able to march and participate with us as well. So we're excited to have the improved, enhanced Memorial Day ceremony with kind of all the classics as well. Next up is checks over $25,000. There were 2. First was to Landline Communications for equipment and installation of a new phone system at all municipal locations, and that was from the Capital Fund for $31,926.02. The other one was JC Land and Site Development, payment number 10, and release of retainage for the capital account for $17,841.90. Anyone else have any announcements? Otherwise, I'll move on to correspondence. Here it is. We have one that is related to the public hearing, so I will save that one, and I will read part of the other one. It's from the Irvington Theater Commission. They basically are requesting to find out what's going on with the potential to, enhance the entrance to the theater project that's been kind of in the works for, 5-6 years. And we had gotten to the fundraising stage, and, we kind of said, you know, there's another plan that's a possibility, and they just kind of asked us for an update on that. I think we plan on having a meeting with them, Larry, to kind of update them if you haven't done it already. But I mean, I think there's still a lot of unknowns, I think is the short answer. You know, and obviously we've been focused on getting the HVAC system completed, but you know, the entrance is another project that the kind of revised numbers were large, and then with the possibility of a potential other plan, it was just kind of put on hold. That's kind of the short answer. But you know, I know we'll be in touch with them and discuss it. And then I'll save Earl's letter for the public hearing. So I will open it up to public comment. If there's no one in the audience present here tonight. So anybody online at home, Larry?
I have a question while we're waiting for anyone to raise their hands, and that is, how have we decided to continue to meet in person if the COVID emergency has been extended again? I'm not quite sure if I figured out how we get here in person, but the COVID emergency is now been extended through June 17th, and the infection rate is starting to get quite high in Westchester County. It's up above 7% now. So I'm wondering if, you know, as a board, we should sort of talk about this and figure out the benefit cost, you know, type of thing about if we're not having to meet in person, should we be meeting in person at this point with the infection rates going up?
I mean, I think it's probably a board preference thing, as you said, at least until June 17th. It's not, you know, extended again. You know, I think, you know, especially for something like the police awards and things like that, we could have done it online, but to me, those types of events are definitely better in person. For work sessions, you know, maybe that makes sense to do it. I don't know, what does the rest of the board feel? Do you prefer to meet in person or online at the meeting?
I mean, I don't have a strong preference. I do think maybe we can just be flexible, and generally maybe during this time we probably should be meeting at home, because I think the rates are very high, and I know in the Irvington schools, it just seems like it's, you know, every day a lot of emails about how many people are infected, and just from my daughter's friends. But I think we could make exceptions, right, when we know we're going to have something like tonight where we could meet for that in person.
I was thinking along similar lines. I think it depends on what the agenda is, right? Like, so if we're going to give commendations to police officers, certainly I think we need to be here for that. You know, that's the kind of thing that needs to be in person. But if we're just going to be discussing you know, issues with the work sessions, I guess 100%, there's really no reason to break them for a work session. While this is going on, I mean, obviously I'm not talking about, you know, when the rates go down. But yeah, for the meetings, I think the key is to look at the agenda, see what's going to be on, and then decide what's best for that agenda. That's what I would be in favor.
Okay. So, I mean, it sounds like for the work sessions, at least for the near term, or for the next work session, that'll be
June, right? Yeah, the 15th.
June 14th or 15th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we can look at how that work session potentially online then, and we can look at the agendas for the regular meetings and see if they make sense also. So.
Right, and so as of right now, the only other meeting that's in play is the June 6th meeting, because after the June 15th, I think the emergency, as you said, it expires June 17th.
And then we're going into one regular and one work session a month after that, right?
Well, we have June 22nd.
Oh.
So
You don't have another meeting in May?
Yep.
no.
This is our second regular one.
Right.
It's early to get the rest of the month off.
My son will be here.
Okay. Yeah, we can play by ear.
We can react to that. Yeah, I mean, it gets a little more complicated with our land use boards, but they can make their own decisions essentially.
Yeah,
so
I mean, they have actual physical presentations. So
yeah, I mean, you don't have to make that decision for them.
No.
But I'll communicate with them and let them know what you're doing.
Sure.
You know, I think that from what I've seen is it goes pretty well with them as long as the audio is working.
Yeah.
You know, then the sharing the screens through Zoom actually is a benefit for a lot of these boards. Where it doesn't work is where the ARB has to see material samples, over the internet, over the Zoom. It's kind of hard for that. But.
So we're only talking about 2 meetings before the emergency runs out, 1 work session, which makes sense, and then the other one isn't until June 6th, you're saying? So we have plenty of time to figure out what.
Right, yeah, and see what's on that agenda. I mean, I have little notes about it, but I couldn't tell you exactly what's on it.
Right, well, it's almost, it's like 3 weeks away, so
Yeah.
that's a lot, yeah.
We should just look at infection rates and stuff. If they continue to go up in Westchester, that could help inform the decision. If it's stable or going down, then that helps inform the decision as well.
The one complicating factor is that the governor has shown to only extend the emergency basically on the date that the previous one expires. And so you'll need to rely on the fact that your constituency is agile. Because I don't know if they're going to know where we are until the very last minute. You know what I mean? That gets a little dicey, but that's only around the time of the expiration of the emergency. So, in between, it's a little more certain.
It works out well, we have a meeting right before it expires, so it gives us a little bit of breath, right? Although there's probably a Monday meeting right after that, right? It's the one we moved to Tuesday because it's Juneteenth, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's Wednesday, actually, yeah.
Oh, Wednesday, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, so anyway, we'll work out the logistics. I was just saying it's challenging, and some of the other complaints or issues that I've seen in other localities is that technically, if you're advertising for a public hearing, you need to advertise the location of the hearing. So we may have to be a little more flexible on our advertising, which is it'll be held either here or here.
Right. Well, we always offer it on Zoom regardless, right? So
What's that?
we offer it on Zoom regardless.
No, I know that, but it's the actual physical location.
Gotcha.
It just gets technical, that's all. And I'm not getting hung up on it. I'm just saying that some of the difficulties of extending it at the very last minute, when you think about a zoning board case where the applicant has to mail out notices to all the neighbors, so all those notices go out weeks before that.
Right.
And what do the notices say? Well, we don't know what the governor's going to do.
Right.
So it just gets complicated, but we'll overcome that in front of God. It's just.
Thank you.
Yep.
Have to have flags flying from the clock tower,
Yeah.
and the color based on whether it's in person or
Exactly.
Zoom.
Anybody raise their hand?
No.
All right, so we will move on to the consent agenda. I think you all should have had a revised H7H, appointment of part-time positions with the Department of Public Works. Basically, there's one extra person added to that.
Yeah, it's a copy of it's on the desk, in front of us.
If there aren't any questions on the consent agenda, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Can I just ask one question?
Sure.
And I apologize, I think I ask this every year, but in reference to the unpaid water rents and penalties, these numbers are for 1 year's worth of water bills
No,
that
this is
people
a
have?
cumulative of 2 years. We did not do it last year.
Okay.
We weren't allowed.
We weren't allowed to.
We weren't allowed to, right. Some people still did it, but we did not.
Uh-huh.
This is accumulation. That's a very low number. This
Yeah, I
is
was
2 years.
It seemed a lot
Have a
lower
very
than I've
good,
seen in the past.
A good rate of pay, and we do keep on top of our residents for those unpaid.
Mhm.
With notification every week. But this is the lowest I think we've had it since I can remember.
Yeah, so something successful.
Yeah.
We've had a few sales of properties too that had, historically high delinquency of non-payments.
Mhm. Thanks.
So I'll make a motion to approve. If I can have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Continuation of a public hearing to consider local law amending the village code with respect to children's outdoor recreational or geez, I'll start over. So continuation of a public hearing to consider local law amending the village code with respect to children's outdoor recreational apparatus and sheds. Perfect. And swing sets. But, wow. Apparatus, stuff working on. Mary Ann, did you want to give us the update of where we were probably last
Right.
week?
Yeah, there were 2 changes made, at several points in the local law, but there's got 2 changes. The height was lowered, the maximum height was limited for, sheds, for exempt sheds from, 12 feet to 10 feet, so they can't be higher than 10 feet. And a requirement was added that, no shed can have a size longer than 10 feet. It still can't be greater than 64 square feet in area, but no one side can be longer than 10 feet. And that change appears inevitable wherever it's relevant in the law. Those are the only two changes.
Anybody else have any questions, comments? Otherwise, I mean, I think, yeah, as you said, there are really only two changes. You know, and
Did
I
you
think,
want to read Earl's letter?
I'll see if Earl wants to speak, but, you know, I think that, you know, my take is, you know, I actually, reading Earl's letter, I do understand some of his concerns for sure. But at the same time, you know, I think I've been talking about this, and Mark, you're second longest tenured on the board. We've been talking about trying to simplify, you know, some of our codes and some of our, you know, the process by which our residents have to do things. And I think we found something that's relatively low-hanging fruit. You know, I think we said if it's, you know, not bigger than 64 square feet, we think it's not significant enough to really impact views or backyards or anything. We did tweak it so it can't become a virtual fence shed, which is kind of an interesting concept. But, you know, my thought after, you know, I've talked to, you know, half a dozen people about this that had some concerns about, you know, I don't know if I want to see someone's shed in my backyard. You know, I don't want to look out my window and see their shed. And, you know, I get that, but, you know, to me, A, they probably could have gotten it. It just would have been in the middle of their backyard, which doesn't really make any sense. And B, you know, is it really that bad if it's a shed in someone's backyard? It's also their backyard, you know? So I feel like, you know, if we're going to really start to look at, you know, streamlining things here for applicants, you know, this is something that to me is relatively easy and almost seems like an overdue fix. You know, Larry and I were talking before the meeting, and, you know, there's many municipalities that don't have site plan approval for, you know, single-family homes at all, you know? So, you know, that's obviously one extreme. I think to work on the other extreme, because I think we do get into these debates about, well, say if someone does this, or if they do that, or if they do this, and I have to look at that, and it's true. It's you know, and yes, we might have one or two bad sheds go up, but, you know, we'll probably also have people that have been waiting to repair their sheds for years and years and years, but knew that they couldn't get them back in the corner where they've been since 1962. You know, it just makes sense to me that we're trying this. You know, again, we'll be vigilant. If suddenly, you know, people put up 6 sheds in the downtown and it's a disaster, we could quickly put a moratorium on future sheds until we look at the law. Yes, those 6 will be up and be too late on those, but, you know, I'm willing to take that risk of that piece of property that, even though it's really the backyard, it looks like the front yard and there's a weird set, you know, I'm willing to take those risks for the 99% that are going to be aided by this change. So that's kind of my speech before we open it up to the public.
Yeah, I think that Earl had a concern about impacts on the historic district, and, you know, these sheds are not going to be in the front yard, and throughout the historic district, there's very few, you know, visible side yards, you know, corner yards. I mean, there are some, but very few. So the sheds are going to be in the backyard. The sheds are going to be out of the main view of the public. So, and they're not permanent structures. I mean, by definition, they're not permanent structures. They don't have a poured foundation, et cetera, et cetera. And that's precisely, they're not conforming to any building code. That's precisely why they're proposing not being regulated. So as such, in my mind, it's like we're not really significantly impacting the historic district in terms of, you know, permanent infrastructure, so permanent building. It's not changing the facade of anyone's building. So I'm not as worried about that. You know, like you, Brian, there's a few cases, there's going to be edge cases where there's a couple places where that sheds could interfere with view sheds or could be visible because on a corner lot in an odd way. But I'm hoping that neighbors can work together on that kind of stuff and come to some kind of compromise about what's the best location for a shed.
Agreed. And I think right now, the best location is often in the setback, like it's,
Well, I didn't.
so I think that, we're allowing it to go in what is probably the best location also, so, that's a big part of it too. Yes, could you be feuding with your neighbor and try to put it as close as possible to something that would annoy them, possibly, but, I don't think that that's where we're gonna, I think you could say that for anything, we could not have any solar panels because you can see them, or, there's so many examples of trying to, really thread the needle, and typically what happens is you come up with something like our leaf blower law that has, we try to, fix all these little problems, and all we did was create a giant problem, so we kind of simplify it, so. But anyway.
Get back to oversimplifying.
Yeah. So, we'll open it up to, I don't know, if Earl's not, on, then I'll raise the ladder.
No, he's here.
Okay, good. Yep.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, Earl, how are you?
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Well, I'm Earl from South Ferris Street. Thanks for the opportunity to comment tonight. There is a lot of really important issues in our world today, and I really appreciate that you would give time to sheds. And I did attend the work session the other day when the board reviewed my written comments. Can you still hear me with the horn?
We can, yeah. You sound good, Earl.
I can hear the horn
Yep.
on the feedback. Anyway, I was at the work session when you reviewed my written comments, and I couldn't hear the responses very well, and the video was cut short at the end, so forgive me for asking for an opportunity to speak again. But I appreciate, as a homeowner, I appreciate the changes that you're proposing to the existing regulations, and I'm in favor of allowing sheds and giving relief to owners with regard to the onerous permitting process that's been going on for years. And I live in a small historic property on 2,500 square foot lot. Everything is existing non-conforming on these lots in the downtown area, and I could use a nice shed. I'd like to see even similar changes in the zoning laws that would accommodate air conditioning units, for instance. We're encouraging people to install very highly efficient heating and cooling systems, but the process of doing that is very, very difficult. And so I'd love to see that. My intent is to be helpful, not to be an obstacle to these efforts, really. But without a permit and no regulation at all, it does indeed rely on common decency. And we have a lot of that in Irvington. I like my neighbors. And I worry, though, about unintended negative impact on the smaller, more densely configured lots. 3 lots can be, or more actually, can be seen from one of these properties in the downtown area. And so if my shed would be 64 square feet, considering that people would want to max out, their capability. So if my shed would be 64 square feet anywhere on the lot, would it be a few feet away from my neighbor's deck or patio? Will it block sunlight from her vegetable garden? And if it's a plastic or corrugated metal shed, it might not be in character with the neighborhood. And many of these kinds of sheds clustered on properties laid out in a small grid could actually dominate the visual landscape on multiple properties that are viewable from each of the homes and even devalue the properties. So let me just say that it would be great if we could figure out some way to prevent any kind of border conflicts. You know, I know that good neighbor policy, good neighbors, good fences make good neighbors, and good neighbors make good neighbors. But one size, it just doesn't seem to me that one size fits all. A maximum of 64 square feet would be proportionally, would not be proportionally in size of the smaller lots. And a 10-foot high shed would block light and views, perhaps in some cases, but certainly block light. I have a suggestion to reduce the permitted dimension limit from 10 feet to 8 feet. You know, it's a nice 4-foot module. Fence posts are set, 8 feet apart. Typically, fence sections are 8 feet in length, and so on. So to reduce the minimum of 10 feet on any side of the floor plan to 8 feet, not 10, and not 10 in height. I would like to see it go to any maximum dimension in horizontally or or vertically of 8 feet, and just stick with that 8 feet number. I think that would be a great improvement. Fences are limited to 6'6", and fences require a permit. So I would hope that you would consider a shed permit that would be similar to the fence permit. And it would be as simple and easy for owners to do, and it would require only ARB approval. So sheds should really have the same level of regulation as fences, in my opinion. And I have one question to the board that you might not have addressed yet. What about the properties that already have a detached garage or similar structures on the lots? Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think they could, if they wanted a shed, they could also have a shed. There's no either or.
I mean, I have a detached garage. I used to have a shed that collapsed under it when a tree fell. I wish the shed was still there. I don't think I'm going to replace it, but yeah, there's always need for extra room. I don't know that having a detached. I mean, I understand the issue more is, again, for better description of it, sort of yard clutter, the building clutter. So
I do also think, maybe I'm too optimistic, but for the smaller downtown backyards, I don't think everyone's going to put in a 64 square foot shed. I think it's going to be. I mean, you probably don't need as much, equipment for the backyards. You don't need a riding mower or whatever it is. So I mean, I think that there might be some poorly planned sheds, but I think for the most part, people could use a potting shed or something that would look nice, as well as, not take up a huge chunk of the backyard, which doesn't really make sense to me either.
No. I mean, I would also say that most people care a lot about their own property, so I don't necessarily see people putting something in to upset their neighbors, right? I think I probably said this before, but if you don't like the person's shed, you probably don't like your house either, So, I mean, I just think we have to have faith in our neighbors, and really, if you just want, I mean, unless you want to just really upset your neighbor, but then if your neighbor's going to set up to you, like, who wants to be in that position? So, hopefully people will understand that the reason we're doing this is to make something easier, and that, it comes with some responsibility on, on people who live in Irvington to just be mindful of what they put on their property and of their neighbors, right? I hope we do that in general with whatever it is that you.
Beyond that, I understand people have concerns of what are called edge concerns, and Brian, you mentioned also that there's a risk of some bad actors, the shed example you gave, but ultimately I think that what we're talking about is a very, very small group of cases, and I think the overwhelming number of cases, this will help Irvington residents. In other words, if we're talking about volume, I think that these kinds of moves to make it easier for Irvington property owners to do some simple basic things without getting permits, without going through reviews and things like that that seem very burdensome. This kind of change will be a benefit to so many more people than the possible handful of cases where somebody does something that may not be the smartest thing to do. And I think ultimately we need to be looking out for the big group of people who are being burdened and for doing relatively simple things like, I have a shed, it's, non-conforming because it's in the setback, it's falling apart, I'd like a new shed, but I can't do it right now because it would require all of this work or whatever. Just let the people have a new shed. It just seems like it would help a lot of people. And ultimately, I think that's what I look at it as, that the most people will benefit from this change rather than maybe a handful of cases, edge cases, as market where there might end up being.
I think I also spoke to a few of my architect design friends, and they estimated that if you didn't have a recent drawing of your property, that all in with between the architectural drawings, the new survey, all that kind of stuff, would be almost $10,000. So, a lot of the sheds I was looking at were, between $1,500 and $50,000.
I just gave a quick look too to see the heights I was checking out.
Yeah, and most of them are less than, they're probably closer to 9 feet. And yes, custom build something that would be 10 feet, not exactly 64, but I it's still along the same lines. That most people are going to put in a shed that's going to look pretty nice in their backyard, or replace a shed that isn't falling down.
So from a volumetric perspective, the one thing that Earl was, he said it more broadly, but one thing he said that could be conditionalized is, I'll phrase my version of it, should there to be two sizes of sheds allowed based on the size of the property? That's what it comes down to. If you feel that 64 square feet by 10 feet high is too large for small properties, like in the middle of the village, so I don't know if those are 1F5s or whatever they are. I don't know what they're zoned as in the middle of the village, but at some point there's a size of property where 10-foot high shed, 8 by 8 by 10 foot is not overwhelming. So that's the question: is do we take a nod to the fact that smaller properties maybe shouldn't have a large shed, or should we just assume that property owners are going to be operating in their own best interest?
Well, I'm persuaded by what you said earlier, that in the historical district, for the most part, these will be in the backyard and not visible. I understand there are edge cases where they may be visible, but overwhelmingly, people if they put a shed that's too big for their backyard, really the only people who are going to see it are going to be them, right? It's not going to, walking down the street, you're not going to see it.
Well, you see the contiguous neighbors who share backyards, but a lot of these yards also have, the ones I've seen, a lot of them have screening, property line screening, so you don't necessarily even see your neighbors. So, you see their second stories and stuff, but unless you're out on a second story deck, then you see a lot more, obviously.
But from the street, when we talk about the historic district, my understanding, if I'm wrong, correct me, it's more about if you walk down Main Street, if you walk down Third Street, you walk down any of these streets, it's what it looks like from sidewalk level. Isn't that really what we're most concerned about?
Well, that's the impact on, the initial impact, but it is also just, the observation of the sorry, it's a weather report. They do look at the entire building when it's contributing or not to the district. But yes, for the most part, people see it in terms of the facades, the street facades.
But something else, I do think that if someone's been living in the downtown and they have, 2 mountain bikes and they've had to keep them in their living room or whatever, they can now put in a shed. I don't think a shed is necessarily, by definition, ugly in the backyard. I think they can have a nice shed that looks perfect, perfectly suited for their backyard. Maybe it's not exactly 64 square feet or maybe it is. So I think, as Arlene said, the people are in have their own best interests. Just because I don't necessarily think that, Mitch's shed is the nicest shed in the world. Mitch does, or, that's what he can, that's what, John Doe can afford, or whatever it is. Like, it's, I think that, again, I think they're working in their self-interest, and I think offer ease of regulation, and, I was thinking kind of practically, if someone said, geez, do I need a permit to get a shed? I assume on the website, you could say, just look for shed, and it'll say, if is it less than 64 square feet? Nothing, otherwise, you need to get a permit and all that kind of stuff. So, hopefully it'll be fairly easy for people to do it. They don't have to figure out what the zoning is, or, where they are, or, because I have to imagine some people don't even know that they're in the historic district. And, it just makes it easier for them as well.
So now to the various sizes based on property size. No one else wants to bite on that one.
I think without actually having a permit, if there was a permit involved, I think it would make some sense, because then, the building department could check it. But when people are, figuring it out themselves, I just think it's just easier to know it's 8 by 8 or less. Yeah, I don't think people are going to be putting oversized sheds just to max out their shed size. That'd be a very strange decision.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if, also if you have a smaller lot, like, I don't know that you want to use up that much space
Exactly.
with a shed. Like, I mean, a lot of them are okay looking, but they're not great looking either, unless you build something.
Sheds are utilitarian almost all
Yeah.
the time, so it's like, it serves its purpose. It doesn't have to be, put a little window on it maybe, but, it's not going to be some piece of your backyard.
We talk about sheds, but part of the deal is also recreational apparatus. So, talking about things in the backyard that you're going to want to keep space for.
Yeah.
So.
The other people that hands up. Like, I mean, I think I try to work through, should we have some kind of, fence-like permitting? Should we have it changed by, size, or just even a historic district or off Main Street? And to me, I think for the first pass, I think we try to keep it as simple as possible. That was kind of our goal. We're trying to simplify things, and I think we found every time we try to split the hairs on everything, it doesn't work out. It's simpler the better. I think that sheds are something that the typical shed's not going to last for 50 years. So if we get this wrong and there's a half dozen that go up quickly, and wow, we really missed this, we can stop it, and those 6 are done, but it'll self-correct in a day or so.
Do you think should have something about what color you can paint your shed?
Definitely. This board should definitely be the one that should permit.
I want to note also that we did take the time to change the dimensions, both the height and the maximum side length based on what people said. So I appreciate the input, because
I think that's important.
Yeah, I think it makes sense.
I never even thought about that.
No, me either.
The idea of the
shed fence.
The shed.
yeah. Wow.
The sheds.
The thing is about the storage you can get, like for all sorts of tools.
Very strange, yeah. Big pieces of wood.
You need lots of doors.
Lots of doors.
So, you think we've heard enough?
Yes, I've spoken in the past, and I'm prepared to vote on it.
So I will make a motion to close the public hearing, if I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. I think we're ready to pass it, right? Whereas adoption of this local law is a type 2 action under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, and therefore requires no environmental review, and resolved to adopt a local law amending the village code with respect to systems for recreational apparatus and sheds. I will make a motion, if I have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. One of our goals for the year is accomplished. Take tomorrow off.
We've simplified something.
Yeah. Award contract 2021-7 for joint paving. Or joint paving. It's not joint
Well,
paving.
it's just a joint
paving, yeah.
We're not paving joint.
No,
Yeah.
no. It is kind of funny though, you're right.
This is the way I write it. I can't read English.
Yeah, that's okay.
I can't do it.
So this is a resolution recommending the award of a contract. We are bidding this contract out on behalf of Several other villages, Ardsley, Dobbs Ferry, Elmsford, Hastings, and Terrytown, along with us. And we had 4 very competitive bids. The low bidder, Montesano Brothers, is, I think, the same contractor as last year, but a very competitive bid, as I said. So we're looking for the award of this, and the other communities will then piggyback on this bid essentially.
Do you know how much the bids went up since last year, the price of oil?
You know, I didn't compare to last year. I think the top coat is $149 here. I think it was in the 130s, so it's a or low 140s. It wasn't outrageous,
Yeah.
but it was.
It's not as
certainly
crazy
high.
as regular inflation.
Yeah, I know. It's certainly
Okay.
in that range.
And for the newer folks, this was something that the village officials committee started, 10 years ago, Larry?
Yeah.
Maybe more.
Yeah.
Where basically, all of us were bidding out and getting horrendous bids. I think we saved the first year, it was almost like half as much or something.
Yeah, it was considerable.
And then basically what we do is we bid as a group, and then just let all the administration know we go by each village. So, I think you bid it out every year too. Yeah, like Irvington did the
No,
actual bidding.
we've taken the lead for the last 3 or 4 years, 4 or 5 years. But before that, it was Ardsley and then Elmsford. Yeah, so it's been around.
But this has been one of those, it made so much sense that we didn't do it before. The first year we saved, I think Irvington saved a couple $150,000, I think, remember the first year. Which is amazing.
Yeah, there's a big difference when you have a small village bidding a contract versus a larger group. And then it actually gets hard when you get even bigger, because there's a sweet spot in there. When you're too big, then you limit the number of contractors that can be on it. You know what I mean? Because it's a balancing act that I think we're right in on.
Joint paving. Whereas the village of Irvington, in a cooperative relationship with the villages of Ardsley, Dobbs Ferry, Elmsford, Hastings, and Tarrytown, has solicited bids for the milling and resurfacing of various streets in the village of Irvington and partner municipalities referenced above. Whereas a public notice of this project bid was duly advertised on April 11th, 2022. Whereas at 11 a.m. on May 4th, 2022, at Irvington Village Hall, all bids received are opened and summarized below. Contractor Montesano Brothers, total base bid $1,792,812.21. ELQ Industries Inc., $1,882,959.84. PCI Industries Corp., $1,974,633.50. Waters Construction Company, $2,022,567.10. Whereas the village administrator reviewed the bids submitted and determined that the lowest bidder is in order and responsive to the specifications. And whereas following the unit values bid in the contract and extended totals based upon the engineer's estimates of the work to be performed in the village of Irvington, the value of work is $250,680.70, with the balance of the contract value for work for portions of the village of Ardsley, Dobbs Ferry, Elmsford, Hastings, and Tarrytown collectively summing to $1,542,131.51. Whereas in accordance with the contract, each partner municipality or other municipalities that may piggyback on this bid will separately authorize the contract and be responsible for payment of services performed within their respective municipality directly to the contractor. Now therefore be it resolved that the village board of trustees of the village of Irvington hereby rewards the contract for the work performed for the 2022 milling and resurfacing on the various streets of the village of Irvington and Montesanto Brothers Inc. in accordance with their unit prices as contained in the bid of May 4th, 2022, for the work to be performed within the village of Irvington and the 5 other villages, and to authorize the village administrator to execute such contract. I will make the motion if I get a second. Second. All in favor? Now we're up to A1 Computer Services contract approval. This is our same group, Larry, and I guess you're happy with them if you're recommending that.
Yeah, this is a continuation. We actually have, over the years, have kind of extended our contracts with them and extended in scope the contract. So we're consolidating their approvals here all at once and trying to just keep a tighter rein on the numbers that we're paying and what equipment we're covering. And it's, as you can imagine, that type of thing just creeps over time as people add more computers and all of that. So this is a consolidation of all that effort in the kind of separate contracts for the police and then the non-police departments. So that's why there's 2 separate contracts.
Any questions on this, or we'll go ahead? Resolved to authorize the village administrator to execute agreements with A1 Computer Services, Inc. for computer support services for the village of Irvington and for the Irvington Police Department for an annual payment fee of $48,123. I'll make the motion if I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
I failed to say that this is within our budget. Maybe it goes without saying, but. I was assuming that, but thank you for saying that. There you go.
There's actually two contracts, one for the police and one for the village, or is it just?
There's two separate ones, yeah.
Yeah.
The same terms, but just they cover different equipment and different types of equipment.
Yep.
Next up is creation of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. We discussed this at the last work session. This actual forming of the committee is, doing the resolution and forming the committee is easy work. After that, we can actually figure out what we're going to do, but if anybody wants to discuss this, otherwise we will officially form the committee.
I feel like we spoke about it a lot in the work session.
Yeah. Resolved to establish a Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion DEI committee with the following mission. The mission of the DEI committee is to make Irvington a welcoming and inclusive village for all people who live in, work, or visit our village. The committee will make recommendations that are consistent with its mission and may include topics such as hiring practices, employee and volunteer training, special events, and community celebrations. Recommendations will be made directly to the Board of Trustees. The committee will consist of volunteers appointed by the Board of Trustees. Make a motion if I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And now, what everyone's been waiting for, the 2021-2022 annual stormwater report by Larry Chapman.
Should we sell tickets for this? We can make some money for the village.
We had our chance when they were all in the room.
Yeah.
Thank you for trying.
Don't leave anything out, Lynn.
A little bit of history, the gentleman who painstakingly prepares this report used to also painstakingly present it, and he would go through the entire stormwater report, page by page, and it was, I would say, an hour and a half, him going through. Well, maybe I'm exaggerating slightly, maybe it's seen that long, but it was a lengthy report. Yeah. And we did that twice, and then Larry said, you know what, I can just present it.
Yeah, I may, as I said to Brian before, I may not have all the answers immediately for you, but I'll get the answers since I'm not an engineer or stormwater expert. So getting into the report, just by way of history, the United States Clean Water Act requires entities like Irvington that operate a stormwater collection system. We need to develop and implement a stormwater management plan. And again, that's all as a result of us collecting stormwater in our drains and dumping them into the waters of the United States is basically how it's worded, which in this case is the Hudson River. For most of the village anyway. So we've developed our stormwater management program some 20 years ago, and we continue to follow it. One of the requirements of that management plan is to prepare and file an annual report. The annual report is a document that I circulated, a document that I linked on the agenda, and that you've all memorized. So let me summarize that report. I won't obviously go page by page, and I'm not even displaying it up on the screen at this moment. Everything is posted on the village website. The annual report is divided into 6 basic sections, or what they refer to as minimum control measures. I'll walk through each of the minimum control measures. First one is the category of public education and outreach. In this section, we outline the educational topics that we touched on in the course of any particular year, and also we list the groups of people that we've reached. So an example is we cover a topic like household hazardous waste disposal, maybe advertising a county disposal day, or posting information about where to dispose of various hazardous waste. That's an educational component to our residents and businesses. And other topics are illicit discharges, how to handle pet waste, and just general recycling topics. We've reached out to residents through these means, businesses and contractors. Those are the main groups that we reach. We used our mailing list of 1,400 subscribers. We've used social media that has anywhere from 1,600 to 1,900 followers. And then, as well as direct contact through our building department. So contractors and professionals who have come in contact with the building department are often educated on these topics. Second Minimum control measures, public involvement and participation. We post information about our stormwater management plan and encourage the public to call with any stormwater issues. We have a section on our website devoted to it. If anyone has a concern for stormwater, I'm the contact person, and I make sure they get answers to their questions. Actually, this presentation that's going on now that's stellar so far, I think, right? Is actually part of our public outreach. The meeting's been advertised publicly. It's on an agenda. It'll be archived. The information was posted on the village website. And then there are other events throughout the year, right? The events have been a little on the low side, as you can imagine, during the pandemic. But we have had events like our Trails Cleanup Day, which was in some part connected to water quality improvement. And there'll be other events in the future. Third minimum control measure is the area of illicit discharge detection and elimination. This is where we are on the lookout, and our residents can be on the lookout as well for any discharges of hazardous material into stormwater. One of the ways we do this is we have a detailed map that was developed with a grant in the past of 68 different locations where we have outflow pipes from private property that go into streams and waterways. And those pipes are inspected once a year by our village staff during dry conditions. And if there's something running during dry conditions, that often can be an indicator of a problem. What that problem is, we would have to investigate, but at least it alerts us to a problem. And of course, if we get either complaints, we've had these in the past where someone, maybe they're in a parking lot and they see a sheen of gasoline or oil or something, and they may ask us about that. The next two are kind of combined. They're construction site and post-construction controls. So construction site controls are such that we require a stormwater permit of the building department, part of the construction process. Anytime there's an area of disturbance greater than 1 acre, the permit triggers certain types of inspections by the building department during the construction process. During the past year, we had 2 of those permits active. Post-construction, that measure involves situations where properties may have been required to install stormwater control devices or structures. Maybe it's a retention basin or some other structure that is there designed to help with controlling stormwater. When they're on our inventory, we make sure that those structures are maintained properly. We have a chance to inspect them, and we make sure the owner of them, whatever that owner is, maintains them. And we have, right now on our inventory, we have 3 of those basins. The inventory is being built up over time. As you can imagine, many of these are built decades ago before any of these laws, so it takes time for them to build up. And the final one is stormwater management for municipal operations. And for this section, we document our maintenance of our own facilities, specifically how we handle our parking lots, how we handle our streets, and how we handle our catch basins. Those are the 3 main categories. And so we document every time we sweep a parking lot to clean up debris so that it doesn't get caught into catch basins. We document that. We swept last year a combined, over the year, 200 acres of parking lots is what we swept. Same with the streets. As you know, some or most areas have street sweeping, and we swept the equivalent of 880 miles of streets in the past year. And finally, for catch basins, as you probably have seen around the village, we have a vacuum truck that goes around throughout the village and cleans all of our 672 catch basins to keep them free and clear of debris and keep them properly. And that was done in the past year. We do every location at least once, and some locations require more than once. So 672 of them. So that report is, what I just summarized, is documented in 37 pages of forms that need to be filed with the DEC by the end of this month. So that's our report, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you.
Except it's red.
Yeah, right. There's nothing you have to do, actually. It's just
I always find it, believe it or not, I find it fascinating. You know,
that these regulations would be here, yeah.
no, well, I mean, for the good that they do provide, but they've been, you know, a lot of it's been thought through quite a bit. And there's a lot of flexibility for municipalities and how they respond to certain things. So,
Great.
Mark, we invite you back to read it every year, but I'm not sure that you'd be quite as succinct as Larry.
yeah, that's the problem. I get off on some sidetrack.
Next up, reports of boards, standing committees, and officers. Trustee liaison reports. Mark?
I have nothing tonight.
Larry?
Application are available for summer positions in the summer day camp. We'll be hiring for counselors, specialists, supervisors, and teacher positions. Contact Maureen. Day camp registration is ongoing. Both sessions for Teenscape are filled at this time. A few spots remain open for youth tennis classes. All adult tennis classes are filled. The O'Hara High School Summer Basketball League will start on Monday, June 27th. 16 high school teams from Westchester and Rockland will participate. You're reminded that groups of 13 or more require group park permits for all village park. Reservation requests can be made online. The Irvington Beautification Committee started their work on Main Street today and will continue to work through the week. Remember to book your Memorial Park tennis court reservations online. They're also in great demand. The Recreation Department garden program at Columbia University is filled at this time. This past Saturday, Irvington students and volunteers helped plant over 200 trees and shrubs in the new deer exclosures in the Irvington Woods Park. Second tree planting and management work session will be this Saturday, the 21st, and we'll focus on planting native trees and shrubs and helping with watering and weeding at the planting sites. This past Sunday, the Irvington cross-country track team came out in full force to help to clean up and make the cross-country Coach Barry loop safer for runners and trail users by wood chipping the trail and helping to level areas on the trails. That's it.
Great. Mitch?
Tomorrow is the school board election and budget vote. It's 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. and it's at the Main Street School Gym. The library is meeting as we speak, so I have no idea, but I'm sure they'll brief me after. And I should have some stuff for the next meeting.
And look at their website.
And look at their website. It's like, no, because it's true, they have so many great events, and it's like, I stopped, they stopped sending me the specific events, because they're like, everything's on the website, go to the website, thank you for reminding me. And they're doing in-person stuff, they're doing online stuff, it's really, what they do great work. I really enjoy getting to know the work that they do, as a liaison, and I'm very excited.
Most importantly, tomorrow's truck day.
Yes, that's right, I saw that.
That's being reinstated, yeah, it's been on hiatus for a couple of
My
years.
son used to love that.
Yeah, so they'll have all the trucks out, I think, in the parking lot down there.
That's awesome, yeah. Thank you, Larry, for bringing that.
So we heard all the great things at the police department, so, and all those fantastic commendations. Also, the Department of Public Works, they finished all the potholes village-wide with gold patches. I don't really know what that means, but I'm assuming they
Cold patch?
covered the,
Yeah.
I mean, they covered the potholes.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. And also, they completed, the surveys were completed on the tree grades and sidewalks, and all the tree grades were cleaned. And they assisted the Parks and Rec Department in restoring the reservoir parking lot, and I'm sure they've done all the stuff that they normally do. So that's it from me.
Great. Village Administrator's report.
So just a reminder, kind of in conjunction with the school election tomorrow, we are going to be taking a few spaces in front of Town Hall, which I know is not the greatest timing, because the scaffolding will be going up starting tomorrow for the rest of the week in front of Town Hall. The police are aware of it. They know that the school is not Excited to hear there'll be a few parking spaces missing, but the police are aware of it, and they're gonna try to make the best of it to get people positioned where they need to get the vote. They'll be helping with, probably some of the flow and turnaround over here on the side street. I don't mean out in the middle of the road directing traffic, but just, paying attention to what's going on. But that's starting tomorrow, probably at 7 a.m.
Okay, that's it. Bill Clerk Treasurer's report.
Oh, it's a busy time in Treasurer's office. We have the end of the fiscal year coming up and the opening of the new budgetary year. So a lot of, and tax bills going out, new water and sewer rates to implement. Just want to let you know, we're working also on the capital budget, and we'll have something, Larry and I will be working on something for the board in June to review. And also, we have a date for our independent audit, which will be in the middle part of July. There's a lot of things to accomplish in a short time, but we're doing it. That's it.
Great. And Village Attorney's report.
No,
Public comment, Larry.
So,
Review of action items.
So, I think the only item that I made was just coming up with a meeting or some sort of communication with the theater commission. We'll coordinate on how you want to do that, but just to bring them up to date, happy to offer a meeting as you said.
Great. So again, I'll remind everyone, school board elections tomorrow, including voting for the budget, 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. at the Main Street School gym, which is a little bit of change. And with that, I'll make the motion to adjourn if I can have a second.